Well, hello all. Today we're going to make something that I've been wanting to make for years, and I think you would want it too. It's an invention called the dieter's friend, for want of a better name, and it's a substitute for willpower. I don't know about you, but if I buy a slab of chocolate and I open it, it's gone that same day. I would like that chocolate to last for, say, a week, having, say, 2 rows of chocolate per day. Or if you buy a box of biscuits, it's a pity that it's all gone in the same day, or at the very latest the next day. So I have reasonable willpower in most things, but when it comes to chocolate and various other treats, zero willpower. And that binge eating, I have a cure for. An invention. I'd like to show you how it works, and I think you're going to be as excited as I am about making this. So by the end of today, I hope to have my invention working. Do you mind if I just show you how it works, how it doles out treats a little bit at a time, a little bit each day? You can also use it, say you have, say, before birthday or Christmas, you know how you have these little windows that you open and the kids get so excited? Well, this thing could dish out every day, could dish out a little present and get people all excited before some big occasion. So today it dishes out a piece of jewelry, tomorrow it dishes out another something or other that a kid could be very excited about. And another 2 ways this invention could be used. If you have old people who are forgetful, you could dispense their pills every day. And if you had to go on holiday and you leave the cat in the house, it could just dish out the pellets for the cat, ration them out every day. So this invention has got many uses, but the one I am most excited and interested in is how it can dispense chocolate a few rows of a few blocks at a time. So let's see how this invention works. So I'm going to try and draw it for you on the blackboard. It consists of 2 spools. One spool like that and another one below it. And the spools are going to be made from CDs or DVDs and tins. So I've got my tins, that's the center of the spool. I've got some old DVDs or CDs. I'm just going to glue them on the ends and make our spool. Then spooling, the spool is going to have a piece of cloth that comes like this over the side. So say this turns that way, and then it goes around. How does it go around? It goes around this side and spools back over. So this would turn this way. So if you have a treat underneath this piece, say we put our row of chocolate there, this is going to slowly turn, and the chocolate is going to be spooled out of the spool, and then it's going to fall down here. This is all going to be enclosed in a big box that's locked. So the box is all going to be locked, and the treat is going to fall out of the bottom, and we're going to, so that eventually your treat is going to, there's your blocks of chocolate are going to fall out the bottom, and you're going to be able to help yourself. And it's going to be it's going to be such that you can't fit your hand in to turn these spools. The spools will be turned. We will have a Pico, Pi Pico processor. We will have a motor that drives, a motor with a little wheel or bobbin. Here is our motor. It's got a little bobbin. We're going to put an elastic band. The elastic band is going to go from the bobbin and it's going to go around this, and it's going to turn this. Well, I think we're going to turn the bottom one. So we'll probably put the Pico in the engine here on the bottom, because here's where we're going to stock our thing, and here is where it's going to fall out on the bottom. And then this lid must be able to lift up, and it will have a little clasp that you can lock. And we're going to have a little lock on it when this is closed, so that once you've stored your food in here and locked it, the last thing that spools off is the key to this lock. So when this is locked onto here, the key is going to be the last thing that we put in after all our rows of chocolate, and that's going to be the last thing that falls out, so we can restock our food dispenser. So as a substitute for willpower, and I have plenty of willpower when I'm buying the chocolate in the shops, you know, so often you can just say don't buy whatever you. But I have no problem saying no to food in the shops, but it's when I get that chocolate or the biscuits or whatever it is, that treat home, that then I can't say no anymore. So if you can lock it away in a food safe, and that food safe just dispenses a set amount that you've decided upon, like a set amount one time per day or twice a day, it drops out something. And yeah, so it has to be lockable. It's a food safe, and it must slowly, this bobbin unwinds and it winds the cloth up on this side, and the cloth, as we're going to put our, as the cloth winds up, we put treat in, then we put another treat in, then we put another treat in, and the cloth is going to lock all these treats in here onto the spool. And then it's going to slowly unwind, and as it unwinds, the treats are going to fall out because the material, the cloth, is keeping them onto the top bobbin. So we've got everything we need. I've got a box, I think, that I can use for a food safe. I'm going to just make this a lot smaller. I've got my motor to drive it. I've got a motor driver. So this will drive a motor, this particular motor, in fact. I've got my Pi Pico, which will somewhere around. I've got my Pi Pico here. I think it's attached to something, so I can't really detach it easily for the moment. So here is our Pi Pico. Still got all the lights on from a previous project, and we're going to use this to set the timing of the motor. So we've got everything we need. We just have to get it all together. And I think perhaps one of the first things I'm going to do is glue the CDs onto the side and make these into spools. So we have our 4 CDs that are going to form the bobbin, and we're going to just put it more or less in the middle, make sure that it looks fairly centered, and then just mark where we're going to glue it. So to find the center of a tin, we take our compass. It's a smallish one, but it'll do, I think. That's as wide as it goes. And then we just mark it. And you'll find that if you do this often enough, you'll find an area that you can see is becoming the center of the circle. So there is the center of the circle. Now that we have the centers, we're going to put a nail So now we've pushed the lids back in. I think I'm just, instead of soldering them, I'm just going to glue them. Just for some added insurance, we're going to put some glue around these edges. Now we want to cut this box to a size that will just fit this in with another side. With another side that thick. So we're going to have to cut it more or less there and there. I will measure it. And let's give it just a little bit of, a few millimeters of extra room. But that should be fine. So now we're going to bring this side in line with that. So if this is the top, we've left enough space for, let's just leave a touch more space for the lid to come on. And now we're going to put the axle for these spools. Let's put that one just a little bit in line with these dots and in the middle. So the axle will come, if the width of this box is close to 18, so it's just on 9, just 1 millimeter less than 9. Well, after a bit of a struggle, we got our 2 spools in. We used a spoke of a bicycle. I think spokes bend, So we're going to try and now bend that. Yes, that bends. And then we're going to cut them off. Boys, when you cut them, just be careful because they can jump back at you. Poke you in the eye. So there are our spokes. We could try and flatten that or hide that somehow, but yeah. Looking good so far. There, they stick out on the other side. So one thing I forgot is I need an elastic band to go around the bottom tin. So we'll just have to unbend the spoke and take this one side off. And put the elastic band on. So this is going to be driven by the motor. So there, just remember we have to put an elastic band on, and that's going to be driven by our motor. And then let's put the spool back on. So we can just hang that through there and then glue that on like that. Well, this is hardened, so let's just slip the elastic band over the spool of this motor. And now that it is over the motor, let's just try out the motor. So that's turning quite nicely. So here we have the conveyor belt that's going to carry the food. Let's glue it to this tin which the motor turns. Now all we have to do is to roll it. So here is what it looks for the moment. All we have to do is load food in there and keep winding the food in, and then the motor will unwind it as it turns and drop the food out the bottom. So we just need to get some food and we need to get our Pico. We have purchased some chocolate, so let's break it up into and because we're going to be playing with our food, I think for a while, let's just wrap these Well, one thing that became obvious is this top one needs to have something that stops it unraveling. So we're going to put some of this blue camping foam on either side, and that's going to hopefully have a little bit of friction that's going to stop it from just unwinding. So let's put one piece on either side. So we're going to load the machine like this. Okay, there is our troublesome one that we broke. We're going to drop it in and just wind it like that. Then take our next one. Drop it in, wind it. Well, our food safe has been loaded with chocolates and about to dispense now. And so we saw that it did it, and we will just play around and tweak it and see that every 24 hours it does exactly the same thing. Here we are running Thonny. We've called our program main.py, but it's also saved as foodsafe.py. To run it on the Pi Pico, you've got to name it main.py. We import machine. From the machine, we import the real-time clock, because we're going to be working with the real time, which we're going to set the hours, the day, the time, the minutes, the seconds. Import U-time, because we're going to have sleeping sessions or rest sessions. From the machine, we import pin, because we're going to use pins. Now, the motor is driven by 2 pins. Pin 14 and pin 15, those are the last 2 pins on the left, well, on the one side, depends which way you look at it, of the motor. Then we also have an LED that flashes just to show that something's happening. Now we have these routines. We define motor move forward routine, and if pin 1A, which is 14, is high and pin 1B is low, then it drives the motor forward. And to stop the motor, both pins are set at low. So we have 2 functions called move motor forward and stop the motor. So we say we'll call the real-time clock RTC. And then we set the real-time clock, we set the year to be 2023, the month to be month number 1, the day to be day number 1, the weekday to be weekday number 1, the hours to be number 1, the minutes to be 1, and the seconds to be 1. Now we start a continuous routine. So this is all just setting up the program. We import time. We make sure that the motor stopped to start off. We import the real-time clock, and we're calling the minutes number. The minute is the real-time clock's number 5. So if you go back here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The seconds is that one, and the hours is there's the year, month, day, weekday, and the hours, minutes, and seconds. Okay, so those are, so we're going to look at those, and we're going to call this, whatever value that is, minute. This one, whatever value that is going to be seconds, and whichever value this is, we're going to call it our HR. Then we're printing the seconds here at the bottom in the shell, just to see it. we sleep for 0.05 and we toggle the LED. So this little LED on the Pi Pico is just going to switch on. Now here comes the switching on routine. If the seconds is equal to 1, so the moment in every hour, in every minute, there's going to be a second when there's going to be a time when the second is 1. And when it hits that, every minute, when we're on our first second, we move the motor forward and we then sleep for 3. But we can see that this needs to be longer. So let's change that, in fact, to about 10. And that will now probably kick out 1 chocolate. So we've now changed that, and then we stop the motor. And that's all the program does. It's going to check, and every time it's 1 second, it's going to do that. Now, let's just, if we want to do this just instead of once every minute, we're going to say this. We're going to change this line, and we're going to say if hour is equal to 1 and minute remember we called it minute. If hour is equal to, and you have to have a double equal, and minute is equal to 1, so what have we done? Every 24 hours there will be an hour equal to 1, a minute equal to 1, and a second equal to 1. And every hour it's just going to move the motor forward for 10 seconds. So changing this one line, instead of doing it every minute, turning the motor on, it'll only do it when the hour is 1 and the minute is 1 and the second is 1. So that coincidence of 3 things only happens once every 24 hours. Because this whole routine, so anyway, you can think about it, you can see why it's logical, because there's only one time in 24 hours when the seconds are 1, the hour is 1, and the minutes are 1. And then now we just have to stop this running, and then we reset the program, and now it will only run only once every 24 hours. If we want to get back to it, doing it every second, we copy that, paste that, and we just change this line here to anything after that, it will, when you see when it sees a hash, it ignores everything else, and we can put a hash, and now we'll be back to the second is 1, and it ignores the hour and the minutes. So we're going to stop this and then reprogram it, and now every second it'll turn on, every minute it'll turn on for 10 seconds. So let's just see if it will now turn on for 10 seconds, and you can see this is actually counting down. Let me just see if I can move that up a bit. And when this gets to 1 seconds is equal to 1. So the moment it's past 0 seconds, it should turn on for a whole 10 seconds, and that will kick out hopefully 1 chocolate. And then we can just, if it's not long enough, we can increase it, and if it's too long, we can decrease it. So that's how easy it is. So when it's done that, when I've just tested that it'll go on for 10 seconds, then I'll just last of all show you the circuit. Now that's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, 6, 7 and 8. So it was 10 seconds that it was on for. I was counting a bit slow.